Howdy everyone, it's Reese aka Bearman Prime on this August 18th. Welcome back to my Read the Bible in a Year series. Thank you again for joining me. God bless you all. Card the top right hand corner for the rest of the playlist. And please hit the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. Sure do appreciate it. All right, so yesterday we talked about the story Jesus told to the Pharisees and the Jewish leaders about rich man and Lazarus. So if you remember, the rich man had everything he could ever want. Lazarus was a poor man who had nothing. He was just suffering and miserable. They both died. Lazarus ends up going to heaven, being embraced by Abraham. The rich man doesn't. He goes to hell, goes to the lake of fire, and tries to plead with Abraham for some, just some relief and to warn his family. And Abraham's like, nope, you had your chance. You had your chance. Your family has the law of Moses and the teaching of the prophets. If they don't listen to them, then nothing we can do. Right? So now we're going to move on today, and we're going to talk about today the death of an actual man named Lazarus. So Lazarus is a friend of Jesus at this time, and he's actually the brother of Mary and Martha. So if you remember back a little while, we talked about Mary and Martha. When Jesus visited their home, Mary was the one who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to while he taught. Meanwhile, Martha was the one in the back of the house doing all the work, the cooking, the cleaning, whatever, and complaining to Jesus, hey, Mary's supposed to be helping me. Why don't you make her help me? And Jesus kind of rebukes her for that. So Lazarus is actually their brother. So they know Jesus and they're friends with him. But Lazarus is obviously very sick and ill. So he may have been a sort of influence on the story that Jesus told about the rich man and Lazarus. We don't really know. It doesn't really matter. But let's go on. Let's go to John today, John chapter 11, and start in verse 1 today. There was a man named Lazarus who was sick. He lived in the town of Bethany, where Mary and her sister Martha lived. Mary is the same woman who put perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. Mary's brother was Lazarus, the man who was now sick. So Mary and Martha sent someone to tell Jesus, Lord, your dear friend Lazarus is sick. When Jesus heard this, he said, the end of this sickness will not be death. No, this sickness is for the glory of God. This has happened to bring glory to the Son of God. Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days and then said to his followers, we should go back to Judea. They answered, but teacher, those Jews there tried to stone you to death. That was only a short time ago. Now you want to go back there? Jesus answered, there are 12 hours of light in a day. Whoever walks in the day will not stumble and fall because they can see with the light from the sun. But whoever walks at night will stumble because there is no light. Then Jesus said, our friend Lazarus is now sleeping. I am going there to wake him. The followers answered, but Lord, if he can sleep, he will get well. They thought Jesus meant that Lazarus was literally sleeping, but he really meant that Lazarus was dead. So then Jesus said plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I am glad I was not there. I am happy for you, because now you will believe in me. We will go to him now. Then Thomas, the one called Twin, said to the other followers, we will go too. We will die there with Jesus. Verse 17. Jesus arrived in Bethany and found that Lazarus had already been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was about 2 miles from Jerusalem. Many Jews had come to see Martha and Mary. They came to comfort them about their brother Lazarus. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to greet him, but Mary stayed home. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been there, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you anything you ask. Jesus said, your brother will rise, be alive again. Martha answered, I know that he will rise to live again at the time of the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection. I life. Everyone who believes in me will have life, even if they die. Everyone who lives and believes in me will never really die. Martha, do you believe this? Martha answered, Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God. You are the one who was coming to the world. Verse 28. After Martha said these things, she went back to her sister Mary. She talked to Mary alone and said, The teacher is here. He is asking for you. When Mary heard this, she stood up and went quickly to Jesus. He had not yet come into the village. He was still at the place where Martha met him. The Jews who were in the house comforting Mary saw her get up and leave quickly. They thought she was going to the tomb to cry there, so they followed her. Mary went to the place where Jesus was. When she saw him, she bowed at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw Mary crying and the people with her crying too, he was very upset and deeply troubled. He asked, Where did they put him? They said, Lord, come and see. Jesus cried. And the Jews said, Look, he loved Lazarus very much. All right, so a few things that we can get out of this story. We'll see what happens at the end of the story tomorrow, but let's take out a few things here. So one is that we can see how much Jesus felt. Okay, we don't always get a good sense of that from the text by reading it. I know I've said before that when I read the Bible and read what Jesus says, it's really hard not to imagine him as like an automaton or just a in a monotone kind of a thing. And I know when I read it out loud to you, that's probably what I sound like. Sometimes I try to put as much feeling as I can into it, but I don't really always know how he would have felt or how he would have spoken at that time. But here, it is very obvious. eh, uh, in contrast to some other points, he's very upset. He loved Lazarus. He loves Lazarus and Mary and Martha like they were his family. And when he heard that Lazarus was dead, even though he knows he has the power to raise him from the dead, that he has the power over life and death itself, and that he knows what's going to happen, despite all that, still pains him when someone close to him like that dies their earthly death. Okay, we can see that, and we see a rare instance here where Jesus cries. He's so sad. He loved him so much. And then the other thing I wanted to point out to here is Martha. So Martha, to her great credit, openly declares to Jesus that she believes he is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Now, she doesn't understand completely what that means, nor will anyone until after Jesus' death. Okay? They still see him as, or think of him as the one who's going to come and reestablish the kingdom of Israel as an earthly kingdom. They don't understand that Jesus is here to establish his spiritual kingdom, his heavenly kingdom, right? So, yeah, they don't fully understand that yet, but credit to Martha for not just saying he's, a prophet or a great teacher, but she declares he is the Messiah. He is the one sent from God. Okay. And I think by inference, we can also infer that Mary believes the same thing as well. So credit to both of them for that. Okay, well, that's all for today. We're going to pick it up there tomorrow and see what happens with Lazarus tomorrow. Thanks again for joining me. I sure do appreciate it. I'll see y'all tomorrow.